are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth, and it's great to have you guys here on this Monday, November 18th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. That is gsmcpodcast.net. So let's get into what we were going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about the biggest game of the weekend, and that was between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Bills giving the Chiefs their first loss of the season. So we'll get into that in a second. We'll also talk about, in the second part of the show, the Sunday night game from last night, which was also a great game between the Bengals and the Chargers. The Chargers winning late, 34-27, and we will discuss that. We'll get into the Steelers and their win over the Ravens. We'll also talk about the Packers and their win against the Bears, continuing their winning streak against the Bears, and then we'll talk about the game tonight, the Battle of Texas between the Houston Texans and the Dallas Cowboys. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the highly anticipated game between the Bills and the Chiefs. And it lived up to it. It was a good game, but the Bills came away with the win. And, you know, I talked about this last week that, you know, the Bills, they win against the Chiefs. They beat them in the regular season. And they continued that here. And I think it was also really important because also they were at home, you know, defend your home turf. And they did indeed do that. You know, and again, I kept saying at some point the Chiefs were going to lose. And it was, in fact, this game here. And, you know, you got to credit Josh Allen because he made the difference in this game. And Patrick Mahomes, you know, he had 3 touchdowns in this game, but also had a couple of picks. One of them was at the end where, you know, the Chiefs were trying to, you know, get something. You know, they you know, were down by, they ended up losing by 9 here. But, you know, they had the ball at the end, and Mahomes was kind of just throwing it down the field to Kelsey and hoping that he would catch it, but it ended up getting picked off. But Josh Allen made the difference in this game. He was spectacular. And Jim Nantz said it on the call, the play of the year on fourth down and 2, you know, you got to pick it up. And he did, and he took it to the house for a touchdown to put them up 29-21. And then, of course, the extra point by Tyler Bass. That was the biggest play of the game. And, you know, the Chiefs, they hung around, you know, and we thought once it was 24. What was the score? It was 23-21. You thought the Chiefs were maybe going to pull it off at the end because they always find a way to win, but that was not the case. The Bills, you know, the Chiefs tried to creep through the back door, and the Bills slammed the door on them with that Josh Allen touchdown run. So to start off the game, the Chiefs got the ball, and right away, second play of the game or third play of the game, Patrick Mahomes throws a pick, gets intercepted, and the Bills turned that into 6 points. Now, Tyler Bass ended up missing the extra point, but you had a nice pitch and catch. Josh Allen to Amari Cooper for 30 yards. It was good to have him back. And the Bills, the other thing, too, is with them, is they were shorthanded. There was no Keon Coleman in this game. There was no Dalton Kincaid. But, you know, Amari Cooper getting him back because, you know, he missed some time. I believe it was with the wrist injury. You also had Khalil Shakir making some big catches as well. Dawson Knox of course, took on a bigger role in this game. So, the Bills still were able to get it done with some of their guys being out. But yeah, Josh Allen led them down the field, and James Cook from 3 yards out scored a touchdown. So that made it 6-0. And like I said, Tyler Bass missed the extra point. So a couple of punts, and then the Chiefs. Nice drive by them. 11 plays, 88 yards down the field. He had a 31-yard reception by Xavier Worthy. He had a good first half, but then, really didn't do anything in the second half. There was another pass later in the game where he was wide open, and, it was a big gain, but he ended up being out of bounds. So that was a tough break for the Chiefs there. But, yeah, Mahomes found Worthy later in the drive from 1 yard out. So the Chiefs went up 7-6. Then the Bills, they answered with a touchdown drive of their own. Josh Allen connected with Dawson Knox for 24 yards and another 25 yards to Amari Cooper, and another James Cook touchdown from 6 yards out. So that made it 13-7. Then the Chiefs ended up punting, and then Josh Allen threw a pick. Was trying to hit Dawson Knox, and that ended up getting intercepted. This was on 4th and 3, and they were driving. They were in Chiefs territory, and yeah, so he ended up getting picked off, and the Chiefs turned that into a touchdown. Mahomes connected with Noah Gray for a 2-yard touchdown. That was on 3rd and goal. And then the Bills, they went down the field. Tyler Bass, before the end of the half, kicked a field goal, a 33-yarder. So the Bills were winning at the half 16-14. And then you had a lot of punts in the third quarter, but then finally the Bills scored a touchdown. They went 10 plays, 83 yards. They went up 23-14, and that was a Josh Allen to Curtis Samuel. He was another guy that stepped up. Touchdown, 12 yards out. So, yeah, that made it 23-14. And then in the fourth quarter, you had the Chiefs go 10 plays, 70 yards down the field, and Mahomes connected with Noah Gray for yet another touchdown. And that's when you thought at that point, all right, the Chiefs are going to find a way to pull this off. But not so fast, because the Bills went 12 plays, 70 yards, and they had to pick it up on 4th and 2 from the 26, and Josh Allen scrambled for a 26-yard touchdown run, and that pretty much iced the game. And like I said, then the Chiefs got the ball back, and Mahomes trying to hit Kelsey on 4th and 13 and ends up getting picked off, and the Bills end up winning the game. There actually was a penalty because Mahomes actually picked up an 18-yard, had an 18-yard gain, but Jawan Taylor, who has really killed them with the holding penalties or just penalties in general, there was holding on him, so that got called back, and then, like I said, Mahomes ended up throwing a pick. So Mahomes went 23 of 33 for 196 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Kareem Hunt, 60 yards on the ground. Xavier Worthy, the leading receiver, 4 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins, 3 for 29. Chiefs defense, no sacks on the day off of Josh Allen. And then speaking of Josh Allen, 27 of 40, he went 262 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was the leading rusher. He had 55 yards on the ground and a touchdown. James Cook, quiet day on the ground, but he had 2 rushing touchdowns. Khalil Shakir, 8 receptions for 70 yards. He got banged up in this game, but he did come back quickly. Curtis Samuel had a couple of big plays, had the touchdown reception. Amari Cooper, the 2 big catches, 2 receptions for 55 yards. Dawson Knox had 4 for 40. And then for the Bills defense, they had 2 sacks off of Mahomes. And Tyler Bass, he was 3 for 4 on extra points. And the Bills improved to 9-2. The Chiefs dropped to 2-1. So that's big. I mean, if the Chiefs lose next week and the Bills pick up a win, then the Bills have the 1 seed. But the Chiefs are playing the Panthers, so it's probably not going to happen. But the Chiefs do have some games on the schedule that they could lose. You got the Chargers coming up soon, week 14. You got the Texans. You're at the Steelers. You're at the Broncos. So those are tough games there. And the Bills, they still got the Jets coming up on the schedule. They got the Patriots twice. But they do have to get through the Niners, who they have after the bye week. They go into the bye next week. Then they have the Niners out of the bye. Then you got the Rams, and then you got the Lions. So those are 3 tough games. And we're not going to get to the Niners today, but they did lose a heartbreaker yesterday. But that's going to be a tough game for the Bills. But give them all the props in the world. They showed up for this game. And, Josh Allen, like I said, made all the difference with that touchdown run. That was big. And look, it's only a regular season game. I get it. All right, you got to see what they can do in the postseason now. Because these teams most likely will meet again in the playoffs. we'll have to wait and see on that. But, Josh Allen showed up. And, that touchdown run that he had, meant something. The Bills were not losing this game. And, they pick up the win. Look, for the Chiefs, the offense still is not clicking. Mahomes is turning the ball over. He hasn't been great this season. But you know what? The Chiefs are 9-1. And they're in the driver's seat to win the division. They still have home field advantage. It's right in front of them, as the manager of the Yankees, Aaron Boone, likes to say. So they just gotta start clicking on offense, and I think they will. You got Juju Smith-Schuster back for this game. He didn't really do much, but and the other thing too is you're going to be getting Isaiah Pacheco back. I saw that he's targeting a Week 12 return, so getting him back is huge. And Kareem Hunt has done a nice job filling in for him. So you got those two guys coming out of the backfield. Obviously, Travis Kelce had a quiet day yesterday, but he's been good in recent weeks. The Chiefs are going to be okay. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be one of the top teams in the AFC. And, once we get to the playoffs, they're going to flip that switch. And if they don't, then, it's back to the drawing board for them. But, they were not going undefeated. They just weren't. I did not believe that this team was going to do it. Offensively, they kind of reminded me of the 2019 Patriots, right? The 2019 Patriots, because they started off undefeated, and I think they were, what were they, 9-0, 10-0, and then they played against the Ravens, and Lamar Jackson's first MVP year, and they ended up winning against them. So it's just, I didn't believe this team was going to go undefeated. I just didn't believe it. So it's similar vibes with those two teams. But that doesn't mean that the Chiefs can't go and win the Super Bowl. I just didn't think they were going to go undefeated. And the Bills, this was the game that a lot of people circled, including myself, as the game that they will lose. And they did. They did. But, they hung in there. And, if it wasn't for Josh Allen picking up that fourth down and scoring a touchdown, then who knows what happens. But the Bills end up getting the win. Give them credit. They showed up, and they're going to win the division pretty easily. Well, their division pretty easily, and we'll see where they end up finishing in terms of seeding. Because right now, the way it looks, they're going to have either the 1 or the 2. So, but let me know what you guys think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we will discuss the Sunday night game from last night between the Chargers and the Bengals. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about the Chargers-Bengals game from last night, one of the best games of the weekend. Obviously, I wanted to open up the show talking about the Chiefs-Bills game because that was, the marquee matchup of the weekend. But this game was very good, very entertaining. A tale of two halves because the Chargers, they dominated the first half. and it looked like they were going to run away with it. Their defense has been playing really well this year. Justin Herbert has been starting to air it out more, and that was on full display last night. Had a couple of nice touchdown throws to Will Dissly, and then the second one to Quinn Johnston. But then things changed. The Bengals were down by as much as 27-6, and they came back and tied the game. And at that point, you thought, well, the Bengals are going to win this game, right? No, they did not. They ended up losing, and they dropped to 4-7 on the season. And it's been a tough year for them. It really has. They really have just not been able to recover from the slow start, because this is what the team is accustomed to doing, is they start off slow, but then they figure it out. But they have suffered a lot of heartbreaking losses, and this was yet another one. The 2 losses to the Ravens, of course, losing to the Patriots by 6 early on in the first game of the year. You lose to the Commanders in a back-and-forth game as well. The defense couldn't stop anything there. It's been a tough year for them, and it doesn't seem like they're going to overcome it, and they're going to end up missing the playoffs. And it's going to be weird not seeing Joe Burrow and the Bengals in the playoffs, but that's kind of where we're headed. And especially, you look at the division now with the Ravens and the Steelers, and we'll get into them. But the Ravens are 2-0 against them. They're 7-4, and the Steelers are 8-2. So, yeah, it's been a tough go for the Bengals. Can they still pull off something and win out and make the playoffs? Maybe, but it's not going to happen. They are a flawed team. But like I said, this was a tale of two halves last night. The Chargers, they looked great to start off this game. Actually, the Bengals, to give them credit in the beginning, they actually, well, I don't really want to give them that much credit, but anyways, both teams punted to start off the game. Went 3-and-out very quickly. But then the Bengals put together a nice drive. They went 9 plays, 56 yards. You had Joe Burrow connecting with Jamar Chase for 32 yards. They got down the field. And Evan McPherson, who had a tough day, 26-yard field goal to make it 3-0. Then the Chargers on their next drive, they went 5 plays, 70 yards down the field, and Herbert connected with Will Dissly for a 29-yard touchdown. So that made it 7-3. Then the Bengals kicked another field goal on their next drive. They got T. Higgins back in this game, which was huge. He had a big day. The Bengals had to go for it on 4th down a few times. And they did go for it on 4th and 1 from their own 26. And Burrow connected with T. Higgins. And they thought he fumbled, but they reversed the call, and Bengals retained possession. He actually was injured on the play, but he was fine. He was able to keep going. But yeah, McPherson kicked a 27-yard field goal on this drive, and that led to the Bengals trailing 7-6. But then the Chargers answered with another touchdown. This was the Quinn Johnston touchdown. He had 22 yards to Quinn Johnston, then another 20 to Will Dissly, and then Herbert connected with Quinn Johnston for a 26-yard touchdown. And then the Bengals punted, and that led to another Chargers touchdown drive, 30-yard run by Justin Herbert. He did run a decent amount in this game. And then you had J.K. Dobbins from 1 yard out in 4th and goal score a touchdown. So that made it 21-6. And then Cameron Dicker kicked a 19-yard field goal later to put them up 24-6. And yeah, that was the score. And you thought, yeah, this game's pretty much a wrap. And the Chargers actually were missing Khalil Mack in this game. I didn't realize that. It's a big loss there, but again, they still were able to get the win. But anyways, so it was 24-6. Both teams punted to start off the second half. Then you had another Dicker field goal, so that made it 27-6. It was a 53-yarder. And then this is when the Bengals started to mount the comeback. They went 11 plays, 70 yards down the field. And on 4th and goal, Joe Burrow connected with Jamar Chase. It was man coverage. He was one-on-one, and that's what they should have did last week on the 2-point conversion, is throw it to him. I don't know why Burrow, threw it to the backup, one of the backup tight ends, but he throws it to Chase, and that was big. So they were able to score there to make it 27-13. Then the Chargers, they went 3-and-out pretty quickly. And then the Bengals once again scored a touchdown. On 4th and 2, they go for it. They throw it deep to T. Higgins, and they connect. Burrow and T. Higgins connect for a 42-yard touchdown. So that made it 27-20. And then the Chargers are driving. They're moving the ball. They get down into Bengals territory Herbert takes off with it, and then he ends up fumbling. It ends up being recovered by Geno Stone, and then the Bengals get the ball back, and they go down the field. He had 34 yards to Chase Brown, who had a good game, and Burrow connects with Jamar Chase for a 17-yard touchdown. And this was a little bit of an improvised play because you had Burrow redirecting Chase, and he got open, and Burrow connected with him, and that was the game-tying touchdown. So then the Chargers, they punted once again. So the Chargers' offense just disappeared in the second half. And then the Bengals had the opportunity to take the lead. They got all the way down to the Chargers' 30-yard line, and McPherson misses the 48-yarder. So then it's back in the Chargers' favor. Let's see what they could do. They go 3 and out. They have negative 4 yards on that drive. So then the Bengals go down the field. They get down to the Chargers' 33-yard line, and then McPherson misses another field goal, a 51-yarder. And then the Chargers get the ball. And there was a couple of times where Herbert missed Ladd McConkey. They, of course, connected on the final drive. But you had Joshua Palmer. The ball was in his hands. He dropped it. Couldn't corral it. But yeah, the Bengals got the ball, and then they punted on their second-to-last drive. So that was unfortunate. They had to punt. I thought this game was going to go to overtime, but it ended up not. So yeah, the Chargers then get the ball, and then, like I said, McConkey was wide open on a pass by Herbert, but he overthrew him. You also had Quinn Johnston dropping a pass too. That would have been a big gain. That was a little bit out in front of him. But yeah. Anyways, so yeah, Herbert connects with McConkey for the 28-yarder. Then another 27 to McConkey, and then J.K. Dobbins. I was really confused on the play because I thought I don't know if the Bengals were in between, like, should we tackle him and, I guess they line up for the field goal, or we just let him score. I mean, he did end up scoring the touchdown. That was from 29 yards out. So yeah, I guess he just ended up scoring on his own. So that put them up by 7, and then the Bengals got the ball back. They had a chance. Burrow connected with JioSaavn for 27 yards. I mean, it was a great catch. I mean, he had to go back and grab it. Otherwise, that would have been incomplete. But a great catch by him. And then he tries hitting Chase. That ends up being incomplete. And then he has to chuck up the Hail Mary. The Chargers, they rushed 4 on the play. Rushed 4 or 5 on the play. So Burrow didn't have as much time to load up as he wanted to. And he did get it off. And T. Higgins did, get his hands on the ball. It's just it got knocked away, and the Chargers end up winning the game. But also another thing, too, is Joe Burrow got knocked around in this game. There were some late hits by the Chargers defense. He's been taking some punishment these last couple of weeks. And, you don't like to see that because, he's a guy that's been banged up throughout his career. And, you don't want to see him get hurt. But these last 2 weeks, he's been taking some punishment. But yeah, the Chargers pick up the win. They improved to 7-3 on the season. The Bengals dropped to 4-7. I did want to take a look at the quarterbacks and their stats from the game. Justin Herbert, in this game, a couple of touchdown passes. He had 297 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Joe Burrow, another solid day for him. 356 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions for him either. Justin Herbert, though, he had 65 yards on the ground. He was actually their leading rusher. The Chargers' offense ran the ball for 155 yards. 2 rushing touchdowns by J.K. Dobbins, 56 yards on the ground. You had Gus Edwards with another 27. Herbert actually only went 17 of 36. So completion percentage was down. Ladd McConkey, some big catches in this game. 6 receptions for 123 yards. Will Dissly, 4 for 80 and a touchdown. Quinn Johnston, 2 for 48 and a touchdown. Chargers defense, 3 sacks of Joe Burrow. And then, of course, like I said, Joe's Burrow's stats. Chase Brown, a good game. 22 carries, 86 yards. He also had 5 receptions for 57 yards. T. Higgins, 9 receptions for 148 yards and a touchdown. Good to have him back. Jamar Chase, 7 for 75 and 2 touchdowns. Bengals defense, 2 sacks of Justin Herbert. But they unfortunately fall short. And look, they didn't really get anything going in the first half. The second half, they got it going. But, if you would have put together a complete game, maybe you win. But the other thing, too, is Evan McPherson, who was money. He has not been money, and he wasn't money in this game. He missed those 2 crucial field goals. The Bengals put them in a position to take the lead. The Chargers gave him every opportunity. The Chargers' offense disappeared in the second half. And the Bengals, they could not take advantage of it. And then Justin Herbert puts together that good drive, and it's capped off by the J.K. Dobbins touchdown. And they win the game. So, the Bengals are 4-7, and again, could they make a run? Yes, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. And for the Chargers, look, they're 7-3. They are sitting in a great spot right now. Now they're 2 games behind the Chiefs with the loss to the Bills yesterday. So, they have an outside chance of maybe catching up to them. They do play them one more time, so they could close the gap even more there. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think this team right now, they look like they are going to make the playoffs. I give all the credit in the world to Jim Harbaugh for turning this team around. It's nice to see that Justin Herbert actually, might have his head coach now. It would have been bad if they would have lost this game, because Justin Herbert has been part of some collapses when his teams have big leads. And, we point to the playoff game against the Jaguars. But they were able to put it together on that last drive, despite the Bengals' efforts, and they're 7-3. They're in a good spot right now. This is a good football team, and they are going to be a problem for whoever they go up against in the playoffs, because Justin Herbert's playing really well. The defense has been the strength of the team. They're running the football effectively. This is a good team. And it was interesting because on the broadcast they were talking about who's going to step up now, because they were talking about the veteran guys that departed. Keenan Allen, of course, being traded. Mike Williams not coming back. Austin Eckler. Those guys are out. And Chris Collinsworth was saying, who's going to step up? And Ladd McConkey was the guy that stepped up. And he had some big catches on that last drive. I thought the Bengals were going to win. I thought all the momentum shifted. But McPherson just kept missed those 2 field goals. And Herbert and the Chargers offense put together that nice drive at the end that was capped off by the Dobbins touchdown. And they got the win. And that's a game that, in the past, the Chargers would lose, but not last night. But let me know what you guys think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. So before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate. Get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the Super Chat button in the chat. And, with that, you can create any thought or comment you want to see me acknowledge throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. Also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCpodcast.net. That is GSMCpodcast.net. So when we come back from our next break, we will talk about the Steelers-Ravens game, how that game unfolded. Very different from the games that we just talked about. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the Steelers-Ravens game from yesterday. And this was a different game from the previous 2 games that we talked about. The Steelers end up winning without scoring a touchdown. They won off of good defense, Chris Boswell, and the Ravens just kicking themselves with some of the things that happened. So let's kind of go through it. So the Steelers and the Ravens, this was a battle for first place. Steelers coming in at 7-2, Ravens coming in at 7-3, and the Steelers ended up picking up the win. And, you know, right away to start off the game, Derrick Henry fumbles. The Ravens get the ball to start the game, and Derrick Henry fumbles. And he slammed his helmet down, you know, on the sidelines, was not happy about it. And he had a quiet day. Did score a touchdown, of course, because that's what he does every week. There's not one game this year where he hasn't scored a touchdown. It's been every week. It's an automatic touchdown. For you bettors out there, that's free money because that's all he does. But yeah, he right away, Ravens fumble, and the Steelers capitalize with a field goal. Chris Boswell kicks his first field goal of the day from 32 yards out. Then the Ravens get the ball back, and they go 3-and-out very quickly. Steelers, they go 3-and-out. And then the Ravens get the ball. They're driving. You have Lamar Jackson connecting with Isaiah Likely for 42 yards. They get down to the Steelers' 29, and Justin Tucker misses a 47-yard field goal. And, you know, he kind of costed them in this game because he missed a couple of field goals. Then the Steelers, they turned it over on downs. They went for it on 4th and 1 from their own 46. And Russell Wilson ended up getting stuffed. And then Najee Harris ended up getting stuffed as well. But the Ravens didn't capitalize on it. They got down to the Steelers' 32, and Justin Tucker misses another field goal. And then the Steelers punted, and then the Ravens punted, and then the Steelers, they go 10 plays, 50 yards, and Boswell kicks his second field goal of the day, a 52-yarder. More punts, and then the Ravens, they go ahead. They went 6 plays, 80 yards, and Derrick Henry from 1 yard out scores a touchdown. That was set up by a 31-yard run by Henry. 18 yards by Lamar Jackson to Isaiah Likely. Then the Steelers punted, and then the Ravens fumbled again. Isaiah Likely ended up fumbling. It was recovered by Patrick Queen. He caused it. The former Baltimore Raven. You had a couple of revenge matchups. You had Patrick Queen going up against the Ravens, and then you had Deontay Johnson going up against the Steelers. There was an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on both sides. On that play. There was a little bit of a fight there. But then that later led to another Boswell field goal from 32 yards out. So the Steelers were up 9-7. Then they kicked a field goal to start off the second half. Boswell, a 57-yard field goal. It was 4th and 1 from the 39 of the Ravens. But they elected to trust their kicker, and he came through. Justin Tucker actually answered with a field goal of his own. This was a 54-yarder, so he makes that. So that made it 12-10 Ravens. And then you had the Steelers answer with another field goal drive. That was set up by a 37-yard reception by George Pickens. And then Boswell from 27 yards out kicks a field goal to make it 15-10. Ravens then punted. Then you had back-to-back interceptions. Russell Wilson threw a pick. This was a bad one. This was in the red zone. This was on 3rd and goal. And he's trying to hit Darnell Washington. Ends up getting picked off by Marlon Humphrey. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know if he was trying to throw it away, but he should have just he should not have thrown that ball. And that could have been costly. But then the Ravens then throw a pick. This was interesting because Lamar Jackson hits Justice Hill, but then it gets ripped away from him, and it gets picked off, and the Steelers get the ball back. And that ended up being huge because you had a couple of penalties on this drive. Well, one of them was on the Ravens. They had too many men on the field. And then Connor Hayward was charged with a false start. But you had Russell Wilson connecting with Darnell Washington for a big gain on 3rd and 7 for 17 yards. They get down to the Ravens 32, and Boswell kicks yet another field goal. This was a 50-yarder, so that put them up by 8. But then the Ravens go down the field. There was a big drop on this drive. I mean, the Ravens ended up scoring, but Zay Flowers ends up dropping a pass that I thought, he could have went for a while on that. But again, they still ended up scoring. You had 11 yards to Rashad Bateman on 3rd and 10, another 11 to Isaiah Likely, a big gain on 3rd and 9 to Justice Hill. This was for 22 yards, then another 8 to Tylan Wallace, and then Zay Flowers makes up for it. He catches a 16-yard touchdown from Lamar Jackson. And what was interesting on the 2-point conversion, right? Derrick Henry's not on the field. They try, the run with Lamar Jackson. He runs to the left, and they end up stopping him short of the goal line, or a little bit more than that. But still, why is Derrick Henry not on the field for that play? Because, you have him on the field, the Steelers are going to be like, are they going to hand it off? Is Lamar going to keep it? What's going to happen? You put Justice Hill out there, you kind of have an idea of what they're going to do. And that's what makes, the Ravens so dangerous is, when you have both of those guys near the goal line, it's either Henry's going to take it up the middle or Lamar Jackson could take the ball and run it and score. So I don't know why he wasn't in on that 2-point conversion. That I was a little confused by. But the Ravens had all 3 timeouts. Justin Fields they actually put in the game. And on 2nd and 10, so they don't get any yards on 1st and 10. They give the ball to Fields. They put him in the game. And he scrambles for 9 yards, but he slides just short of the first down marker. Which, he could have kept going. He would have picked it up very easily. But I guess he just didn't realize where it was. Thought he picked it up. But then they ended up getting it on 3rd and 1. Najee Harris, he picks up the first down. And the Steelers end up picking up the win. They're 8-2. Ravens dropped to 7-4. Russell Wilson was not great in this game. He went 23 of 36 for 205 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Najee Harris had 63 yards on the ground. Jaylen Warren had 41 yards on the ground. Justin Fields had 2 rushes for 17 yards. George Pickens, their leading receiver, no surprise there, 8 receptions for 89 yards. Darnell Washington had 2 for 42. Couple of fumble recoveries by Deshaun Elliott and Patrick Queen. The Steelers' defense, 2 sacks of Lamar Jackson. And then for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, 16 of 33, 207 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Derrick Henry, 65 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Isaiah Likely had 4 for 75. Zay Flowers, 2 for 39 and a touchdown. Rashad Bateman, 2 for 30. Ravens defense had 4 sacks on the day, but they can't pick up the win. They had a lot of missed opportunities in this game, and they fall to 7-4. Steelers are 8-2. And yeah, right now, they got a little bit of a hold on the division lead. They're 1.5 games up on the Ravens in the North, and this is the tough part of their schedule. And so far, they've done a good job. They beat the Commanders last week, who are a good team, although many people might look at them as a little bit fraudulent now. They beat the Ravens, and now you got the Browns coming up this Thursday on a short week, which I think they could win that game, but we'll have to wait and see. It's, again, divisional game, and it's still going to be tough. That's in Cleveland. You still got the Bengals twice, but, got to like what the Steelers are doing right now. They are Mike Tomlin and that team, they're going to finish once again with the winning record. Mike Tomlin will not have a losing season here. It's not going to happen. The Steelers are going to win a couple more games here, or more than that. I mean, this is the tough part of their schedule. Right now, you could look at them and getting maybe like 11 wins. But we'll see. This was a big win for them. But the Ravens, I mean, Justin Tucker missing those field goals. There were points that were left out there in this game, but credit to the Steelers. They pick up a huge win. Again, we kind of questioned the move by the Steelers to go back to Russell Wilson, but he hasn't lost a game yet. Now, he wasn't great yesterday. They won in spite of him, but they did just enough to win. And I thought with the Ravens secondary and how it's struggled this year, their pass defense has not been great. I thought maybe the Steelers could take advantage of that, but they really didn't. Because it's funny how the Ravens defense is really good against the run, but they struggle against the pass. And this was a very good unit last year, but they were good yesterday. They were good enough to win. I mean, the Steelers, they kicked 6 field goals. So you got to give credit to Chris Boswell. I mean, he's been unbelievable this year. He's been the best kicker, one of the best kickers this year. He's definitely been the best kicker in fantasy, one of the best kickers. So Justin Tucker, though, there's some conversations that are being had about him and what the Ravens should do with him, because he has not been great this year. And it's unfortunate because He's arguably the greatest kicker of all time, but it just happens, you know. The consistency is not there because I mean, you know, he made a 54-yarder yesterday. You know, he still got it. It's just like I said, the consistency for some reason is just not there. And you know, if the Ravens are going to want to go far this year, you know, he might have to make some big kicks. And you know, if he ends up, you know, missing a kick in a crucial spot in the playoffs, I mean, that's not going to be good. So the Ravens are going to have some conversations about that going forward. I mean, I don't think anything's going to come about it because he has the track record. And like I said, it's still there. He can still make 50-plus yards. It's just there's some that he misses. And there's some, you know, within 50 yards, within 40 yards that he has missed. So, and it proved costly yesterday. So, but the Steelers, I mean, they just continue to find ways to win games. And, you know, they haven't played the Browns and the Bengals yet. This was their first divisional game. And, you know, for some reason, they know how to play against Lamar Jackson. You know, they limited the damage there with him. They did a good job with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was on the sidelines a lot. You know, he really was not a factor. Had that big run to set up the first touchdown, but other than that, he really didn't do anything. And I really, again, I question why he was not on the field for the 2-point conversion. I think he should have been there for that. But he was not. And the Ravens did have all 3 timeouts. They had an opportunity to get the ball back, but the Steelers never gave them the chance. They were able to pick up that first down. That's back-to-back weeks now that the Steelers needed to pick up a first down and not give the ball back to the opponent, and they were able to do it. Now, Commanders was a little bit different. They got the Commanders to jump. Here, they were able to pick up the first down on their own with the Najee Harris run, and also I thought putting in Fields was smart because Russell Wilson, you know, he's not, you know, the same runner like he used to be. So I thought doing that was smart because once they put Fields in, you know, he's gonna be the one to take off with it, and he did. It's just he slid a little bit short of the first down marker, which, I mean, if the Steelers don't pick up that first down and they end up losing the game, that you point to that play as the reason why they lost. But you could also say they didn't score any touchdowns in this game. And the Steelers have won games in the past where they kicked 6 field goals. Boswell was the kicker in the divisional round against the Chiefs when they won 18 to I think it was the same score. What was it? Was it 18-16 or 18-10? He kicked 6 field goals in that game, and that was with, you know, Big Ben and Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. You know, so Boswell has a habit of you know, kicking a bunch of field goals and leading the Steelers, you know, to a win. So yeah, they pick up the win. That was huge. Yeah, that was the same score, 18-16. That was back in 2017, January of 2017. So nothing new to him. But yeah, give the Steelers credit, man. They just continue to win games, and the Ravens, look, I'm not worried about them, but you know, they had some missed opportunities. So, and they'll get their chance at redemption against the Steelers later on in the year. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our next break. When we come back, we will talk about the NFC North matchup between the Bears and the Packers. The Packers winning on a blocked field goal. So back-to-back weeks, teams win on blocked field goals. So we'll get into that when we return from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about the Packers-Bears game and what happened in that. Packers were coming off of a bye. They've won the previous, I think, 10 meetings against the Bears, and Matt LaFleur undefeated against the Bears, and that continued yesterday. Now, it wasn't easy. The Bears, coming off of letting go of their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. You figured the Bears were maybe going to look a little bit different. And, yeah, no, they had an opportunity to win this game. And unfortunately for them, they come up short. And I kind of feel, I do feel bad for the Bears because you have what happened in this game yesterday. You also had the Hail Mary against the Commanders. I mean, the Bears could very easily be 6-4, but now they're 4-6, and they're in their hard part of the schedule, and it's not looking good for them right now. There's definitely going to be changes at the head coach spot by the end of the year, but let's kind of go through it. The Packers, they put together a very nice drive to start off the game. They went right down the field, 8 plays, 70 yards, and that led to Jordan Love completing a touchdown pass to Jaden Reed for a 15-yard touchdown. There were too many men on the field for the Bears. There was also a offsides penalty on the Bears, but that was good. And like I said, Packers, were kind of been struggling a little bit offensively, so that was really good for the Packers to go right down the field and score. But then the Bears, they answered with a field goal drive, Cairo Santos from 53 yards out. Then both teams exchanged punts, and then the Packers, they went down the field. They got down to the Bears 5, but then you had an ineligible man downfield, so that set them back. And then Jaden Reed lost 5 yards on the next play, and then Love threw a pick trying to hit Tucker Kraft, ends up getting picked off. And then the Bears turned that into a touchdown. They go 13 plays, 76 yards. Caleb Williams actually did run a lot in this game. DJ Moore caught a 12-yard pass on this drive, and then later you had Roschon Johnson from 1 yard out score a touchdown, so that made it 10-7, and that was the score at the half. Then the Bears kicked a field goal to start off the second half. Cairo Santos from 27 yards out. And then the Packers answered with a touchdown drive. They went 6 plays, 70 yards. You had a 25-yard reception by Christian Watson on this drive, and he had a big day. That led to Josh Jacobs, who's been good in recent weeks, scored from 7 yards out to make it 14-13. And then the Bears responded. They went 11 plays, 78 yards. You had a big run by DeAndre Swift for a touchdown. This was a 39-yard touchdown. They went for 2 and they didn't get it, so that made it 19-14. It stayed at 19-14. Packers turned it over on downs on their next drive. You had a 48-yard reception by Christian Watson. I thought this was an interesting move. So they went for it on 4th and goal from the 6. Jordan Love took off with it, but he got tackled just short. He gets tackled at the 1. But the Bears, they ended up punting. And then the Packers, they went 4 plays, 78 yards down the field. And then Jordan Love did end up scoring his rushing touchdown. He did have a scramble before that. And then before that, you had Christian Watson making a diving catch. And then he got up. Nobody was around him. And he ended up going from... So this was 2nd and 6 from the Green Bay 26. Jordan Love throws to Watson, makes the catch, gets back up, and he takes it 60 yards down to the Bears' 14-yard line. Then you have Jordan Love scrambling. I thought he got in on this, but they ended up saying that he was short. And then on the next play, he scores, and that made it 20-19. They go for the 2. They run it with Josh Jacobs. He doesn't get it. So it stayed at 20-19. And then the Bears put together a nice drive. I mean, Caleb Williams got sacked a couple of times, but then he hits Rome Odunze for 16 yards on 3rd down, and then he hits Rome Odunze again for 21 yards. And then you had another 12 to Keenan Allen, and they get down to the Packers 28. And you figure they're going to win this game, right? Nope. Ends up getting blocked. And the Packers win, and they continue to win games against the Bears, 20-19. And they improved to 7-3 on the season. Jordan Love, 13 of 17 for 261 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Josh Jacobs, 18 carries, 76 yards, 1 touchdown. Jordan Love had a rushing touchdown. Christian Watson, big day, 4 receptions for 150 yards. Josh Jacobs, 4 for 58. Jaden Reed, only 2 for 23, but he did have a touchdown. Packers defense, 3 sacks on the day. And then for the Bears, Caleb Williams was good, 23 of 31, 231 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He had 70 yards rushing. DeAndre Swift had 71 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Roshan Johnson had a touchdown. Rome Odunze, 6 receptions for 65 yards. DJ Moore had 7 for 62. Cole Kmet, 3 for 42. Bears defense, only 1 sack of Jordan Love. But the offense did look better. They got back to running the football effectively in this game. Packers defense did struggle at times. The Bears, they had 179 rushing yards in this game, so that's not good for the Packers. And they get the win. It hasn't looked great. I've been looking for them to kind of take that next step offensively. It's just it hasn't gotten there yet. You figure at some point this offense will really get it going, and they're going to have to because you got the Lions coming up. You got the 49ers next week, and I know the 49ers did lose, but the 49ers are still a threat. We're not going to get to them today, but we will talk about it. But yeah, the Packers are 7-3. They're in a good spot right now, and again, you got to have a little bit of luck on your side, and they blocked that field goal, and it's just the Bears are unlucky. They're unlucky at times. I mean, with that and the Hail Mary, it's just it's been rough. It's been a rough few weeks for them, but you got to at least like that, you had DJ Moore was involved. Rome Odunze had a couple of big plays. They're running the football. And, the defense is still good. So, it's disappointing for Bears fans because they were hoping for better results. And, they just continue to lose against the Packers. And that's, it's unfortunate for them. Matt LaFleur still undefeated against the Bears, has not lost against them. And, Fox, when they were interviewing him, I think Aaron Andrews was talking to him about it. And he said, don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. And he almost did, but they got the win. And, it was nice to see Christian Watson getting it going. And, he's kind of a boomer bust guy. He'll have these big games, but then there'll be days where he really doesn't do anything. But his big day made the difference. But Jordan Love is still turning the ball over. That's something that needs to stop, to be contained a little bit, if the Packers are going to want to make a run here. Josh Jacobs, like I said, has gotten it going. The pass rush has got to be better too. Defense has got to be better. But this is still a good team, and they're still working through things, and that's that goes for some other teams as well. But you want to hope that they can figure it out and get back to how Jordan Love was playing towards the end of last year. Because if you get that version of Jordan Love, then this team is going to be very dangerous. But yeah, they got a tough game against the Niners next week at home. Niners are coming in desperate, coming off of a loss. Niners are beginning their tough stretch as well. So, and for the Bears, look, they did make progress in this game. The offense was a little bit better. And I think they take on next week, they take on the Vikings. And that's a home game for them. So that's going to be tough. And Sam Darnold looked better yesterday in their win over the Titans. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. They got all their divisional opponents, the Bears, which I don't know why the NFL did that to them, but they did. So, but like I said, credit to the Packers picking up the win, and for the Bears, it's a tough loss for them. So, but let me know what you think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. When we get back from our next break, we will discuss the Monday night matchup between the Texans and the Cowboys, which is not as enticing as it was because the Cowboys have not been good this year. And on top of that, Dak Prescott is out for the rest of the year. So not really that much juice in this matchup. Although the Texans will be getting Nico Collins back, so it'll be nice to see him out there. Micah Parsons made his return last week when they took on the Eagles, the Cowboys. So at least you got him back for this game. But offensively, the Cowboys are going to struggle. This is a good Texans defense. But we'll get into all that when we come back. Also, I did want to bring up that and we'll talk about it tomorrow, but Tommy DeVito will be starting next week for the Giants against the Buccaneers. The Daniel Jones era appears to be over, and Tommy Cutlets will be making his return to the field. So we'll make sure to talk about that tomorrow, but that was made that made the news this morning. But I wanted to focus on, of course, the games from yesterday. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll discuss it on the show and some of the other games I didn't get to. Also, we'll talk about the Jets and their loss to the Colts. There's a lot of stuff to get to. So we'll get into all that tomorrow. But I did want to bring that up. But yeah, so we're going to take our final break now. And like I said, when we come back, we will preview tonight's game between the Texans and the Cowboys, and that will take us to the end of the show. So for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to now get into previewing tonight's game between the Houston Texans and the Dallas Cowboys. And I know I talked about it a little bit before the break, but yeah, this game is not as enticing as I think we would have originally have thought because of how the seasons have kind of unfolded for these two teams. The Cowboys, I mean, this is a lost season for them, especially now with their quarterback being out. But even before that, they weren't playing well. So, you look at this game, and the Texans should win this game and win pretty easily. The Cowboys are 7-point underdogs. They're 3-6. The Texans are 6-4. Although the Texans have not looked great. Especially, last week you had a big lead against the Lions. You could have handed the Lions their second loss of the year, and that was a big lead that they ended up letting that get away, and the Lions ended up winning that despite Jared Goff throwing 5 interceptions. So, this game, this could be a game for them to get back on track. You got Nico Collins coming back for this game, which is huge. You're already missing Stephon Diggs. He's out for the year. And Nico Collins, they've been missing for quite some time now. Was placed on IR, but he's back. And, at least you get him back with Tank Dell, who's been good, and Dalton Schultz, and Joe Mixon's been running the football effectively for them all year. So, this is still, I still think this is a good Texans team, but, I think their quarterback needs to start playing better. CJ Stroud has not been good in recent weeks. I'm looking for him to kind of, have a big second half. The Texans haven't had their bye week yet, so maybe the bye week will help. I think that's coming up in a couple of weeks, I believe. So hopefully, they could figure it out. But Nico Collins, getting him back is huge. So, and the offensive line also at times hasn't been good for the Texans. So, but I think this is a get-right game for them. I really do believe that. I believe that Cooper Rush is going to start for the Cowboys. We did see both quarterbacks play last week. We did see a little bit. Well, we saw Cooper Rush, who wasn't great, and we also saw a little bit of Trey Lance, and Trey Lance was not any better. He ended up throwing a pick. But, Yeah, Cooper Rush will indeed get the start tonight. I don't know. I feel like maybe you give Trey Lance a little bit of a runway. I mean, is he going to be great? Probably not, but at least see what you got with him, I guess. He hasn't really gotten a fair shot, partly because of injuries. So, I mean, this would be an opportunity to do that. We kind of know what Cooper Rush is at this point. I know he did a nice job filling in for them a couple years ago when Dak was hurt, but we know what he is. So, and we got Nelson in the chat, a fellow GSMC host. Daniel Jones has been benched. And yes, I did bring that up briefly. I will talk about that more tomorrow. But yeah, we're back to Tommy Cutlets as the starting quarterback. So we'll see how that goes. I thought it was maybe going to be Drew Lock, but I guess they like Tommy DeVito, and he did a nice job filling in last year, which Giant fans are not very happy about, just because it kind of hurt their draft positioning by them winning games. And that's what's what's unfortunate is Tommy DeVito came in, won some games for them, and you get upset about it because depending on who you are, you get upset because you could have got a better draft pick, and maybe the Giants wouldn't have had Daniel Jones to start the year, and then maybe the season would have gone different. I don't know, but we'll talk about that more tomorrow. Let's get back to this game. So, and I was talking about Trey Lance. Let's get back to Trey Lance. So, yeah, I think the Cowboys should maybe give him a chance. Give a chance to Lance. Why not? Maybe we'll see him depending on what Cooper Rush does. I mean, it could be similar to last week where the Texans jump out to a big lead and then they throw Trey Lance in. It's a lost season. You're not going anywhere. See what you got. But, yeah, it's just been a very disappointing year for the Cowboys. And I thought, they would continue to be a good regular season team, but it never turned out that way. Week 1 against the Browns, because we thought the Browns were going to be better. You thought, all right, they went on the road, they beat the Browns, that was a good win. But it just, after that, they haven't even won a home game this year. Can you believe that? They have not won a home game. All of their games, all their wins have come on the road. They beat the Steelers, which I don't know how they beat the Steelers. That was a game-winning touchdown pass by Dak Prescott. They beat the Giants and they beat the Browns. I mean, the Steelers win, I still don't understand. But, yeah, your other two wins against the Giants and the Browns. And then, you got blown out by the Saints at home. I mean, you really were getting blown out by the Ravens, but then you came back. You got blown out by the Lions. They were getting blown out by the 49ers, but they made it close at the end. Because the 49ers have not been the same team. And then the Falcons you lost to, and then you got blown out by the Eagles at home. So it just has not been a good year. It's not been a good year for them. Now, there are some winnable games on the schedule. You got the Giants again. I mean, honestly, the Panthers might not be as winnable as it was originally because, they've won 2 in a row, and, the Cowboys don't have their starting quarterback. So you still got to play Washington twice. You got the Eagles. You got the Bucks. I mean, I think the Bengals should beat them. That should be a win that the Bengals could pick up. So we'll see. But it's just, the Cowboys are going to finish with, 5 wins this year at most? It's not good. It's not good at all. But let's kind of run through the league rankings for both teams. So obviously it's different now without Dak, but the Texans are 9th in passing yards per game. Cowboys are 11th rushing yards. The Cowboys are 31st. I mean, Rico Dowdle's officially been named the starting running back, but it's just they are not a good running team. Bringing back Zeke didn't really do anything. Dalvin Cook has really been only on the practice squad, and in the games that he's played in, he really hasn't done much. The Texans definitely would be a little bit higher if Joe Mixon didn't get hurt. They're 14th. They're averaging 119.4 rushing yards per game. And then points per game, Cowboys offense is 22nd. Texans is 16th. And then defensively, the Texans defense has been the better unit. They're 3rd against the pass. The Cowboys defense is 17th. Against the run, Texans are 11th. Cowboys are 31st. So expect a big day out of Joe Mixon. And then points allowed, Texans defense is 18th and the Cowboys defense is 31st. So, we'll see what happens in this game. But I expect the Texans to win pretty easily. I mean, they should, but you never know. You never know. You know, it's Monday Night Football in Jerry World. Texans have not been the team that I expected, partly because of injuries. So, you know, we'll see if the Cowboys can maybe keep it competitive, keep it close. But I think the Texans win by multiple scores. I'm going to say they win maybe, I'm going to say 28 to 14. I'm going to say the final score. I'll say the Cowboys. Well, yeah, I mean, I'll give the Cowboys the respect and give them a couple of touchdowns. But I think the Texans win pretty easily. So we'll see. But they are, you know, they got to be a little careful because, you know, the Colts did pick up a win. They're behind them. Now, the Texans are 2-0 against the Colts, which is good. But, you know, it's not like they're running away with this thing right at the moment. The Colts right now, they are 1.5 games back. So the Texans, they got to continue to win games. You got the Chiefs and the Ravens on the schedule. You also got the Dolphins, too, and then they've looked better since Tua's come back. The Dolphins are starting to get themselves back in the conversation. They picked up another win against the Raiders. So, you know, who knows? Maybe they go on a run. I know I said it's going to be a tough uphill battle for them, but you never know. So the Texans, they got to win the games that they should win on the schedule. You know, you got the Titans, who they haven't played yet. Got to beat them. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But I like the Texans to win tonight, get to 7-4, and Cowboys will drop to 3-7. So, but at some point, like I said, I'd like to see them go to Trey Lance and just see what they got with him. But they're in trouble though, because I mean, you just gave Dak that big contract and he already got hurt, and he wasn't playing good before he got hurt. So I just, you know, and of course CeeDee Lamb got his new deal. I don't know. Also, wanted to bring up the fact that, you know, the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight was in their stadium. The curtains were closed for that. Why can't the Cowboys do it during their games? I don't understand. Because Jerry Jones did not like that comment. Because CeeDee Lamb last week, I hit into my mic. CeeDee Lamb dropped that touchdown pass, and, you know, the sun was just terrible on that play. But, you know, because he blamed it on the sun, and then, you know, Jerry Jones was asked about it, and he just did not take it the right way. And had a little sarcastic comment. So I don't know. But it's just, you know, it's not a good year for them. And this was a year that they said they were going to go all in and that they were going to do a lot at the deadline, and you only acquired a receiver in Jonathan Mingo. And now your quarterback's hurt. It's just, you know, the defense has not been good. It's just, it's a season to forget for the Cowboys, and still got a little bit before the season ends. So we'll see what happens tonight. Let me know what you guys think about this game. Who do you have winning? Let me know in the comments. And that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to tune in tomorrow. We'll recap some of the other games I didn't get to today. We'll talk about Daniel Jones being benched for Tommy DeVito. We'll recap this game tomorrow as well. We'll see what happens tonight. Looking pretty good in fantasy. Possibly going 5-0 across my leagues. I definitely won in 2 of them. There's and most likely 3, but the other 2, well, especially one of them, because I'm up 28, and my opponent has C.J. Stroud and Kymie Fairbairn left. So, and the, you know, the Cowboys haven't been great, so it's a good matchup for Stroud, a good matchup for Fairbairn. So, you know, maybe Joe Mixon has 4 touchdowns tonight, and Stroud, you know, passes for 200 yards and, you know, has a pedestrian performance, and Fairbairn just kicks extra points. So that's what I'm hoping. The 28-14 score is what I'm hoping. That Joe Mixon has 4 touchdowns, and Kymie Fairbairn just kicks extra points. But we'll see. But yeah, make sure to check out all the other shows later today. And make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video. And yeah, that is pretty much it. So, as always, I'm Kenneth Gruenfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Enjoy the game tonight if you watch it. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit.